Getting ready for a start. This is the second qualifying. Very serious business. Let's go to Alan Grice and Craig Denyer.
Thank you, Bill. Yes, it's a qualifying sprint race to be run over 9 laps. We've got 26 starters in this event. 10 Fords, 10 Commodores. Alan Grice, you've raced these cars most of your racing career. Question number one is, wouldn't you like to be out there?
Well, it's a great lot of fun getting out there all hot and sweaty, and the boys are already probably pretty warm. It's interesting to note that they've changed the race duration from 10 laps to 9. The main reason for that is that at the end of 9 laps on a street circuit like this, where the brakes are used so hard, they're absolutely boiling hot. So it's really much better, rather than just taking them into a paddock and parking them, they give them a lap to cool down.
And question number two is, if you would like to be out there, in what car?
Well, obviously, you'd want to be in pole position setter. Anywhere.
Well, Mark Scaife was the guy that put the car on pole in qualifying yesterday afternoon, but it was John Bowe that also had good car speed. Dickie Johnson there, thumbs up to the crowd. Real Queensland favourite, and a little bit back on the grid, Dick, but he's in there with a chance too in 5th spot. We'll run through the grid. Mark Scaife, the Gibson Team Sega car, set the fastest qualifier. Johnny Bowe in the Ford Falcon, 2nd fastest. Peter Brock for the Mobile Holden Racing Team was 3rd. Tony Longhurst 4th, and Dick Johnson 5th.
Dick only got in there very late too. Then Glenn Seaton, after some early problems with engines. Larry Perkins in the Castrol Racing Commodore. Alan Jones in his pack leader racing Falcon. Craig Lowndes in the Holden dealer team car. And Brad Jones, who had a nasty little shunt this morning in an Audi, but he's back there on the grid.
Russell Ingall for Castrol Perkins Racing, 11th. Neil Crompton, the Coca-Cola Kid, 12th. Steve Ellery, the first of the Privateers, 13th. Gary Rogers, that's actually Stephen Richards driving that car in car 14 for Gary Rogers Racing. Mark Larkham in 15th spot.
And then Terry Finnegan, another very regular privateer, and John Faulkner, Max Dumsney, those two coming across from NASCAR Racing. Steve Reed, Paul Romano in the 2nd pack leader racing car.
Mark Poole in the Commodore, Chris Smurden in the Commodore, Mal Rose, Commodore, Kevin Waldock, Gold Coaster in the Falcon, and Wayne Russell in the Commodore 2 in 25th spot.
And it's a big field. Number 26, Kevin Heffernan, and a Price Attack Racing Commodore, who had a little bit of a wall attack yesterday.
Yeah, actually got up on 2 wheels. The car went through the turn that comes onto the beach esplanade here, and actually didn't understeer, didn't oversteer. The car actually had so much grip, it just tipped up onto 2 wheels and went slap bang straight ahead into the wall.
Indeed, and there's Glenn's getting ready. He's got a interesting sort of a combination there. He's got the balaclava just pulled up around the bottom of his neck. I've not seen that before.
He looks like the most relaxed racing driver behind the wheel, doesn't he?
Yeah, you expect somebody with that sort of makeup on, actually, or that sort of garb on, to be running out of a bank.
All right, we've got Mark Scaife sitting there on pole position with a great lap time yesterday. Johnny Bowe, who in qualifying yesterday afternoon looked as though he actually had a faster car set up than Scaife. Scaife set his time early in the session. Bowe, however, set his on the very, very last lap of qualifying, and he actually got crossed up quite a bit going through the chicane across the back end of the circuit and lost a lot of time. So one would nearly think that Johnny Bowe's got the car speed to match Mark Scaife.
Yes, if he can get away. It's very, very important. A 9-lap sprint. It's just flat out all the way, and the start is very, very important. About
set to go on their warm-up lap, and we've got a field of 10 Fords, 16 Commodores. They're away.
And interesting, we've got Yokohama at the front for a while. Bridgestone have really been a very consistent race tyre so far this year. But Dunlop, with John Bowe's incredible skill to qualify a car, has been often on pole. But Yokohama have come to the fore here. It'll be interesting to see. They've obviously running quite a soft tyre to get the time. It'll be interesting to have a look at their durability. Although it's only 9 laps, this is a very tough circuit on brakes and on tyres.
Bridgestone, Dunlop, Yokohama, the 3 brands that are in the Group A touring car racing. Just quickly, the specifications of this form of motorsport, Alan. 5-litre V8 engine.
Yes, controlled compression, controlled types of compression ratios, revs are controlled. Lots of the components in the engine are free, but the end result is that the Holdens and the Falcons have very, very similar horsepower.
6-speed gearboxes, specially built body shells. They aren't really like your road car at home. They may look the same, but they're very spectacular to watch, particularly around a tight street circuit like this. And what is the key to going fast around here, Alan Grice?
You've got to get out of the corners. Of course, everybody's got to be very heavily committed under brakes. They run huge brakes here, but the cars are still quite heavy. They go very quickly, so don't be surprised to see some brake problems, even only 9 laps. But the whole key to a lap time here is twofold. Get out of the corners straight, quick and smooth onto the straight so that you use your power you have. And then if you might use a little bit of artistic license, the chicanes aren't necessarily as slowing, shouldn't have such a slowing effect as they sometimes need to. The more you straighten them out, the quicker you go.
Warming up the tyres. This is an in-car shot from Neil Crompton's Coca-Cola Commodore. Neil has had a pretty frustrating couple of days in practice with some tyre problems and qualified 12th fastest, but looking forward to a better showing here. They've had good performance from these cars this year, but look, problems for one of the Alan Jones cars by the look of it.
Oh dear, that's a terrible team problem.
Alan Jones, of course, left Glenn Seaton Racing last year, the security of a well-funded team, and has set up his own team here on the Gold Coast. Good sponsorship money, and has taken on young Paul Romano as his number 2 driver. And that's Romano's car now that's being wheeled back, which is a real blow.
Yeah, he'll be a non-starter at that. It's obviously just expired. The noise has gone out.
Big call for Alan Jones to be competitive in his first season of racing with his own racing team, but he had a good showing at Symmons Plains a couple of weeks ago in a round of the Australian Touring Car Championship, and actually led this race 2 years ago in 1994 when he was driving for Glenn Seaton and hit the wall on the inside going through the chicanes up the back straight and took himself out of the race. Wasn't a very happy chap.
Still kicks himself about that one. He was just had that race shot to pieces, but that's terribly sad for Paul. He's only a young bloke. He showed a lot of promise last year as a privateer in a Holden, and he's been signed this year to drive with Alan Jones in the number 2 car. And for that to happen, it's obvious that something terribly simple has happened, resulting in the car with the fire out, no engine, and that's the end of that.
Okay, well, they're coming down to grid up now for the start of this 9-lap event, the EA Sports Group A touring car race here at Indy Carnival 96. These cars will rev to 7,500 revs. They've all got rev limiters, 6-speed gearboxes, and it's the front row between Scaife and Bow that you have to watch.
Now, Craig, with a hectic start like this in a 9-lap sprint, what would your betting be? How many cars across the curbs and on the grass in the first corner?
All of them.
I don't think all, but I bet you there'll be some.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch back through the field too. You've got Alan Jones sitting back there, Dick Johnson. You've got 3 Australian Touring Car champions, or former Australian Touring Car champions, on the first 3 spots on the grid. Neil Crompton's car there.
He looks like he's on the back of the queue on the way into the circuit.
And he looks mighty relaxed too behind the wheel, sitting there. What's going through his mind, Alan?
Panic, sheer controlled panic. Never mind looking relaxed. There's no way in the world he's relaxed.
It's a great act then.
Well, yeah, look at the eyes. You've got the smoke coming out of the eyes.
All right, revs starting to build now. Up to the rev limiters now. 7,500 revs. Stand by for the start. Watch for the green. And they're away. Group A touring car action. And it's Johnny Bow who's got the start. Watch for Brock. Down the inside as well.
Scaife's got a shocker, a dreadful start. He's still being shuffled back.
And there they go, down towards the first chicane, and it's Johnny Bow from Tony Longhurst. What a blinder from him. Brock into 3rd, Scaife back to 4th, Alan Jones, and then Dickie Johnson.
Yeah, then Seaton after Perkins there. But look at this. There's not one of them been on the grass. Well, what a terrible start.
All right, as they wind down towards the bottom end of the circuit here at Surfers Paradise. They'll reach speeds of up to 230 kilometres per hour on the straight.
JB in front, and boy, he's hard from there. This is look at this. Dick's down the inside of Alan Jones.
Yes, thank you, Jonesy. Move right over. And Jonesy says, no, thanks, Dick. I'm going to take this one back as they head side by side onto the back straight now.
Perkins is going to have some of that too. He saw a bit of a gap and stuck his nose right in there. But look at Johnny Bow and listen to the crowd. You can hear them from this box. He's pulling away, but he's not going to clear out. But boy, is that car going to get wide. That's as good as Longhurst has run all year in 2nd spot with Brock and then Scaife behind him.
Great start from 4th on the grid for Tony Longhurst too. That's a tremendous effort. And he struggled this year a little bit with an engine that's been down on horsepower, but we've seen a great performance at Melbourne and here again on these street circuits. Tony Longhurst loves a Ford, loves the street circuits, and he's closing up behind Johnny Bow too. The pressure's really on at the front of the field.
And there's Dick back in front of Alan Jones. They've swapped places 4 times in half a lap.
Bowie through Conrad Jubers, Longhurst, Brock, Mark Scaife hanging right onto the back of Peter Brock's car now. Then Dickie Johnson. Jones now starting to fall back a bit.
And Dick's picking Scaife up. I think he'll hook onto this pack. Dick, when he gets the eyes on at places like Bathurst that he likes and Lakeside, maybe we can add this one when Dick gets the eyes on, as it looks like they are today, he'll be right in this.
Yes, he had a frustrating practice session when he broke the diff and didn't even do one lap in the first practice session here a day or two ago, so he's missed out on one complete session, so that's a great effort. As Bow now leads this race down the main straight, closely followed by Tony Longhurst, touching speeds now of around 240, 250 kilometres per hour. They're only 21 seconds a lap slower around here than Indy cars.
Yeah, and yes, we see it's a good example of the power that John Bow's got at his disposal. Longhurst got a pretty good run onto the straight, but John Bow just pulled away.
So Bow now still holding that gap to Tony Longhurst. Brock about a similar distance behind, but being shadowed by Mark Scaife. Watch Scaife, he's an aggressive little driver. Led this race some years ago, was taken out when he was lapping a slower car, qualified fastest, and knows this track well.
JB won both races, of course, here last time the Group A's ran in '94, and Dick Johnson had a third and a second, so looks like the Dunlop tyres like this place, and certainly the Johnson package. Look at Dick, he's going to have a look at Scaife any minute at the moment. He's just about pulled right up on his tail.
In through the chicane now, back to second gear through here.
Yes, second gear through there, and just up to third.
Riding with Neil Crompton in the Coca-Cola Commodore, brakes hard, back to second, and you can see him working hard, intense concentration, because one little slip around this track means that you hit one thing, and that's a lot of cement.
Yeah, you're saying he's relaxed before? Boy.
Takes his motor racing very seriously, though. He's doing a fine job this weekend, combining the commentating duties with driving a car. So there you see Scaife through the Foster chicane, up the back straight, heading north on Beach Esplanade towards Conrad Jupiter's turn, which is a hard left-hander. Again, hard on the brakes here, back to second gear. There goes Crompton through. He's got young Stephen Richards behind him, son of Jim Richards.
And I think Ingle in front of him.
And Ingle driving for the Larry Perkins team. Great effort for Brad Jones too, who is back in car number 4, the other Coca-Cola Commodore, after that heavy hit he had this morning in the Audi, and he got the all clear from the Medico, strapped himself back into the car, and he's racing in this event, which is a tremendous effort.
Oh, yeah, striking it, Craig. You'll tell me he's relaxed too. He's had a huge shunt this morning. He's bolted himself back in the car. I'm sure you're going to tell me he's relaxed.
Johnny Bow dominating this event, car number 1, the current Australian touring car champion, and really the form driver of this category for the past 2 or 3 seasons. He had 11 straight pole positions out of 13 races last year, and cleaned up at Bathurst with 3 straight heat wins some weeks ago. And then Craig Lowndes, the young hotshot from the Holden Racing team, as Scaife.
Scaife runs down the inside of Brock. He's certainly got those Yokohamas working well, and Scaife comes over to have a little bit of a block there. Now let's have a look at them running up, because we know that Brock's got a very strong engine.
You see Scaife moving across to block the run from Peter Brock down the inside, but he won't do it.
No, Brock's car's already got the power to take that overlap. Now Dick will be setting both of these guys up, because and Scaife goes in so deep, it just outbraked him on the outside. That's good stuff.
Great effort from Mark Scaife in the number 2 white Commodore.
Well, Brock would have gone. I think Brock would have gone with him in days gone by, but he just held back there.
He's a man that very rarely puts a mark on a motor car, though, Peter Brock.
Well, that's a reputation. I've had a few marks on my car from him.
Mark Scaife through the chicane, closely followed now by Peter Brock, and then Dick Johnson for Queensland.
Yes, Dick's having a big loom there. He's looming. He's doing a monster in the rear vision mirror. He'll start probing at Brock from now.
Tight part of the track here. This is where Brad Jones went off this morning.
Yes, right here.
Straight ahead there.
Yeah. There's the marks, in fact, right into the wall.
This is a short straight which leads down to probably the most critical corner on the track, Alan, because this corner here, you've got to get it right to dictate your speed onto the straight. Indeed.
You see, in just half a lap, where Brock and Scaife were side by side over the other side of the circuit, Scaife on this occasion has got enough of a gap to overcome the extra power that Brock's car certainly seems to have. 6 laps to go in this Group A touring car race from Surfers Paradise, and it's still Johnny Bow from Longhurst, Scaife, Brock, Johnson and Alan Jones. It's interesting, these cars seem to have settled now. I wonder if that's just the edge come off the tyres. I mean, they were all over each other like a rash only a lap ago, and they've all just sort of settled a little. I think it's a time to sort of make sure that we've got something for a charge with just a couple of laps to go.
It's a battle between Ford and Holden up the front, a battle between engine builders, a battle between tyre companies, a battle between fuel companies, and it's on for young and old. as we watch Peter Brock, the master. No sign of the master's apprentice this time round. Alan, where's Craig Lowndes?
Well, indeed, he hasn't featured at all this weekend. A new circuit, hasn't got used to it, I guess, and I think he's down in about 9th position behind Seaton and in front of Ingle.
Scaife now looking for a pass on Longhurst, as we see Lowndes now looming up behind Glenn Seaton in the Ford Credit Falcon. So we'll watch number 15. This is the guy that's been the talking point of touring car racing for 2 seasons now. Young lad, 21 years of age, put this car on pole position at Bathurst last year and Sandown. And the pit talk this weekend is that he's about to sign a multi-year contract which is going to take him into Formula One.
Glenn Seaton at the moment is driving a very wide Falcon, and Lowndes doesn't mind bouncing across those curbs, but he's certainly looking at a very wide car in front of him.
You'll see Seaton come through and up onto 2 wheels through the Foster chicane, and Lowndes will follow him through again up onto 2 wheels. Great stuff there, and Perkins again behind them coming through.
Yeah, a lot of rubber saving. Everybody's giving the curbs a clip there. I guess if they feel that if they all clip the curbs or climb all over the curbs, the stewards can't go crooked the whole lot of them.
Glenn Seaton had engine problems in the very first practice session here, blew an engine, had to do an engine change, and Glenn is now doing all his own engines after splitting from his father Barry, Bo Seaton, who has been part of the Glenn Seaton racing team for many years.
Now these Holden engines we know are very strong, and look, it just started to pull him in towards the end. It won't be enough because they're just about to get on the brakes. Here's Alan Jones, who's still holding on in front of Larry Perkins. Larry has got the normal elbows firing. Often you think Larry needs grease nipples in his elbows, the way he works that wheel.
OK, with 5 laps to go in this Group A touring car race, let's recap the top 10. Leading outright is John Bowe, Tony Longhurst, Mark Scaife.
And there they
Peter
go
Brock.
round. They've gone round. We've just had a change right there in front of us. It's Scaife and Longhurst. I guess one has had a probe at the other, and then Waynet back in the pack.
Wow, so that puts Johnny Bowe in the lead, and Peter Brock second, being shadowed now by Dick Johnson. Well, the action continues, Alan. This race isn't over yet.
No, just when you think it's settled down, look what happens. A big probe down the inside, and they both go waltzing across. They didn't hit anything, but boy, they nearly did when they returned. But Brock is now putting the big ones in. Look who's third. Dirty Dick Johnson. It's come back.
Johnny Bowe using up pretty much most of the road there, and you can just see in the replay that Tony Longhurst, car 25, and Mark Scaife in car 2 have just touched, both looped around, and will now rejoin midfield.
Yes, I think that's really taken it all. Taken the heat off Bowe now. He's looking very strong.
This is Group A touring car action, live from the Gold Coast during the Bartercard Indy Carnival 96. Laps to go of this Group A touring car race here from the Gold Coast, and it's Johnny Bowe showing a clean pair of heels to Peter Brock, and Dick Johnson third outright at this stage. And it's Bowe that's got a great break on now, as we see Neil Crompton coming through the Bartercard chicane, and again just loops the car around, Alan.
Oh, very similar to Brabham's effort, I think. The rear's locked up, just trying terribly hard in there. Now where do you go, though? Boy, look at these 6 heading at me. Maybe it is a thing that's in common with the commentators with the 10 network. The 2 commentators that are driving, Dave, both spun them backwards with the lock rear brakes.
It must be a tough job too, Alan Grice. I mean, it's very hard to get your head into gear from one different job doing commentating to then driving a Group A touring car at 250 k's.
You're saying they're so relaxed.
They look so relaxed. Bowe, Brock, Johnson, Jones, Perkins, with 2 laps to go of this 9-lap event around this 4.5 kilometre track.
It's a great study in how to do it. This guy just doesn't miss an apex now. He's settling, he's settled down, he's got the speed, the roll on the car, he's just pulling away from Brock now, and everything is spot on. Look at that. Every time he gets out near that wall, I guess he's about, well, 15 centimetres away from it every single time. He's just in the groove, and he'll just keep rolling away.
And a very hard man to pass, Alan Grice, when you come up behind him.
Oh, he is too. He certainly defends his road. Certainly does. But he's just very good at his trade.
Pulled out about 20 car lengths now on Peter Brock, and Johnson in third spot. Not that far behind as we see Bowe.
Yeah, just pulling it out, dead straight. Comes up, under brakes, back a gear.
See the puff
turn
of
in. That's the puff from the exhaust. Out to the wall. Now look, right out to the wall. Thank you. That'll move. Down we go down the straight. Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
Develops around 600 horsepower, these engines. 6-speed gearbox. Very, very powerful cars. Up the back straight, he'd be touching more 220 kilometres. Braking hard for the chicane.
This is where the car's got very good shock and spring control. Although the car's jumping over the curb, you see that the actual body of the car doesn't go lurching around all over the place. Very good setup in the springs and shocks.
Touches 155 k's about here, then back to 60 k's. Massive brakes on these things. Turns in for the main straight run. Will touch around 237 kilometres per hour halfway down. Maximum speed around 255, and a hard dab on the brakes then for the first chicane on this main straight brings the car speed back to about 80 kilometres per hour.
A lot more than a dab. You feel like you're trying to push the firewall onto the floor when you get down there at that speed, and all you can see is concrete wall and grass. So you really... I've known people have 2 feet on the brake pedal when you're looking at those walls like that, Craig.
He's on his last lap. Johnny Bow, car number 1 in the Shell FAI Falcon for Dick Johnson Racing. A lot of people thought this team would struggle this year because they lost their 2 key men, Ross and Jim Stone, who left Dick Johnson Racing after a number of years to build the new Alan Jones team, but it hasn't slowed this man.
Just to give you a catch-up very quickly, we've got Bow, Brock, Johnson, Jones and Perkins, which we just highlighted before. They're followed by Lowndes, who's now moved in front of Seaton. Then we've got Ingle, Scaife and Longhurst in the top 10.
That'll be a nice old battle between Longhurst and Scaife for 9th and 10th spot too, after that little incident we saw, which took both of them out. So Johnny Bow on his last lap. This man has won Bathurst with Dick Johnson, has won the Touring Car Championship, has also won the Australian Drivers' Championship, the Australian Sports Car Championship, and next to Alan Grice has probably won just about every other time.
Oh, Jones, he's gone back. No, it's not Jones, it's Reid, the privateer in the Lansvale car, backwards across the chicane into the middle of the track. I guess that could be brakes too.
John Bow on his last lap through the Foster chicane. Third gear through here, accelerating hard.
Yes, third, fourth.
Dab on the brakes from Johnny Bow. So
another one of your dabs. No, you don't dab them, you jump on the things there. You've got to pull it up and turn it left because there's concrete wall in front of you.
Peter Brock, still around 15 to 20 car lengths behind Johnny Bow. Replay of the Steve Reid incident.
Rear's locked up again. And across some more tyres. Yeah, get the tyres onto the track. The under tray comes off and the nose. He's still jacked up on the tyres. Get it off there if you can.
I wonder where he's going to take it for repairs.
Yeah, I think he's pretty right. He got a quote book in his race kit.
On the final lap, coming down to take the checkered flag is Johnny Bow, who wins for the 3rd time here at Surfers Paradise. Peter Brock, 2nd outright. Dick Johnson across the line, taking 3rd spot. So it's Ford, Commodore, Ford, Larry Perkins, Lowndes, Seaton, Ingle, Scaife and Longhurst rounding out the top 10. Great drive from Johnny Bow.
Yes, no question. He got the brake at the front. They put it to him. They put it over him for a couple of laps, tried everything, and then he just cruised away after the edge had gone off their tyres. Now they're doing... there's the quote book. He's really done some good hopping across there. He's still carrying a few tyres underneath. He's got a few extra spares that he started with.
Very quick privateer, Steve Reid. Runs this car in combination with Trevor Ashby. They've been in the Lansvale Smash Repairs business as a partnership since they went to school and still competitively drive together in this car and alternate race meeting to race meeting.
The car always looks great too. Here's the cars now. They're having that cool down that they all got together and asked could we please do that.
Is that for the driver or the car?
No, that's for the car and the disc. You see what can happen with when discs get so hot in a car like this and you stop, where the brake caliper is over the disc, they can actually crack while the car is sitting still. But at least they've got the opportunity to get these temperatures of the disc down to a lowly 400 or 500 degrees C, and then they're okay.
And you're talking about $2,500 for a front disc, a rotor on these things.
Oh yes, that's right, or $40,000 for a front set of English calipers that don't work as well as some of the local ones.
Well, we've seen brake problems with both the Johnson cars and the Jones cars throughout the Touring Car Championship so far. These cars are carrying an extra 50 kilograms of weight this year, and of course that extra 50 k's, Alan, of course, can play a big part as far as braking is concerned.
Oh, it does. There's no question. Weight, another 50 or 100 kilos on these cars is similar, I suppose, to putting another stone of weight on a jockey, and everybody knows what happens when that does. Well, they're supposed to know. I really don't, but it allegedly makes the horses run slower.
So Johnny Bow now waving to the crowd. Great performance from Peter Brock too to be 2nd outright. Don't write this man off at 52 years of age. Back in form this year, certainly.
That's not very old, really. It's really a competitive thing, but I think 1, 2, 3, 4, those guys will be very happy with their day's work. Jonesy has had a good run. He was just that little tad off the pace, but he had a good run.
It's interesting they're all veterans. When you take into account you've got Bow, Brock, Johnson and Jones, add up their combined age, Alan.
Don't be so disgustingly rude. They're not veterans. They're just less young than some of the other people, or slightly more older than others. It's a ridiculous thing. It's all relative. What are you on about?
So as we wrap up this EA Sports Group A touring car race from Surfers Paradise, magnificent shot down to magnificent shot as we look down over the Haviland Hill.
Look at the crowd. They love the Group A's, don't they? They like that V8 stuff.
And Steve Reed trying to get the car back to the pit area. As they push it out of the way and back to the Smash Repair Workshop for some work. Ron Gillard will have a busy night tonight. He's the team manager, puts this whole show together. And
there's Steve Richards there. I think he was the first privateer home today, which is a good effort from Steve.
Yes, he was actually, because it was Richards, Jones, Faulkner and Ellery. Let's go down to John Smales.
Neil Crompton forced to give it away in the Coke Commodore. What happened?
Well, to start with, John, I made a mistake down here on about lap 5 or 6 at turn 1. I went in there a little bit hot, locked the rear brakes again, which was the same problem I was having yesterday, despite putting more front brake on the car as I was going. And then the next lap after that, when I gathered myself back up, it dropped onto 6 or 7 cylinders, so not a good day for Coca-Cola racing.
Looks like he's worked pretty hard too, Alan Grice.
I know, he's relaxed, Craig, he's relaxed.
As most of the cars pull into pit row. To wrap up this 9-lap event, they'll be back tomorrow. We'll run through the leaderboard for you. Results: Johnny Bow, first outright in the Ford Falcon. Peter Brock, second for Commodore. Dick Johnson, third for Ford. Alan Jones, fourth. That's Jonesy's best result to date. Larry Perkins, fifth. Craig Lowndes, sixth. Glenn Seaton, Russell Ingle, Mark Scaife, Tony Longhurst, Gary Rogers, which is Stephen Richards Jr. driving that car. Brad Jones, John Faulkner, Steve Ellery, Terry Finnegan, Max Dumsney, the Australian Sprint Car Champion, Mark Lakem, Mark Poole, Chris Smurden, Mal Rose, and to round out the rest of the field, that's it. This is Group A touring car action live from the Gold Coast during the Bartercard Indy Carnival 96. We'll be back shortly.